So your local sheriff or prosecutor has said, don't worry, we're a Second Amendment, we're a two-way sanctuary jurisdiction, we're not gonna be pressing charges on this. That's great, it's a start, it's good, I'll take it, but what does it actually mean? Is it everything that you can basically bank on? Or is this something where, look, user discretion is advised? We're gonna be getting into that in this video. My name's Tom Grieve, I'm a former state prosecutor, criminal defense attorney. Let's get into it. So after Illinois' recent passage of their assault weapons ban, as well as in other states like Washington and so forth, we always see kind of the same trend emerge, which is local law enforcement, typically sheriffs and sometimes some prosecutors as well, saying, look, we're not going to enforce, we're not going to comply with these unconstitutional laws. And invariably I see folks posting in the comment section or somewhere online saying, look, don't worry about those laws, we're good. But what you don't understand is you may not be. And that's really what I want to unpack here. And to be clear, I'm not saying this is a bad thing that sheriffs are coming out and expressing these views in support of the Second Amendment. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is you need to understand the risks, the liabilities, and the ways that you can still be prosecuted if you're going to make the decisions that whatever it is you're going to be making in response to that particular passage of some sort of heinous anti-Second Amendment issue. So that's really want to get into here. Before I do, guys, really quick plug for the channel. I know that, look, somewhere about 80 to 90% of you folks who watch our channel are actually not subscribers. It's completely free. It takes just a moment. You just click the subscribe button. It helps our channel grow. It helps more folks find us as well in the YouTube algorithm. And you can do also the exact same thing by pressing like and commenting on this video as well. Of course, if you really like it, extra bonus points if you share it around your favorite social media and so on. It's the only plug I'll make till the end. Here we go. So number one, I want to be emphatically clear that this is obviously really positive news that different sheriffs come out in response following whatever AWB or whatever passage, whatever ludicrous law in support of the Second Amendment saying, look, we're not going to comply. I want to focus particularly on the Illinois issue though, although I'm going to be speaking more generally to a broader audience across the country. So of course, we've had the recent passage this past week of the Illinois assault weapons ban. And at time of recording the video, we've had approximately 40 sheriffs and I think a mixture of potentially some prosecutors saying, look, we're not going to enforce laws that in our view run afoul of the Second Amendment. And that's fantastic. But I also want to contextualize a few different things so you can see how the system can get you. One of them is just pointing out a simple math problem, which is the fact that there are 102 counties in Illinois. And we've had at most approximately 40 sheriffs at time of video recording saying we're not going to enforce this. The sheriff is, of course, the head law enforcement officer in a particular county. But that doesn't mean that there aren't more law enforcement agencies, namely municipal police departments and so on, not to mention state patrol and so on, that have jurisdiction to arrest, investigate, prosecute, well, not prosecute, we're going to get to that in a moment, different offenses and violations. So in particular, Illinois actually has, according to a Google search, which we know are always right, 994 law enforcement agencies in Illinois. So even though 40 is a great start, or maybe 50 or 60, wherever we are at the time of publishing in the video, that's still obviously just a drop in the bucket of the overall agencies, meaning that you could be actually in a 2A sanctuary county where the sheriff has said we're not going to prosecute, but get arrested by local PD or state patrol or something like that. And there you go. You thought you were safe and now you're facing felony charges. That's not the only way they can get you. Let's move on to number two. Number two deals with what's the role of law enforcement officers in the justice system. So put another way, how does the justice system actually work? In virtually every state that I'm familiar with, the way that the laws are actually written are that, look, cops don't actually file charges. The one exception to that arguably is basically like writing tickets or something like that. But otherwise, when we're talking about crimes, what they have to do is cops are the folks who, look, they're doing the investigation, they're doing the arrest, and they can put you in jail. But beyond that, they basically put together their police reports to include, maybe a DVD or flash drive of any audiovisual recordings, dash cam, body cam, 911 calls, surveillance footage, things like that. They're going to put it into an incident referral packet or something. The names vary, but it's something like that. And they're going to put on there sometimes a cover sheet saying this is what we think Mr. So-and-so should be charged with these particular 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 80 charges, okay? And off it goes to the prosecutor. But it's the prosecutor who makes the charging decision. They have the ultimate authority and discretion to decide, here's what we're going to do, here's what we're not going to do. Again, the significance to that is the fact that this is not a law enforcement officer-based system. Yes, and let's get to the next part though, which I know some of you are busy typing into your keyboards right now. But Tom, if the prosecutors never get the incident referral report, how can they still make the charges? Great question. So that's obviously one of the big things here is that if the sheriffs go ahead and if they never refer those folks in, it doesn't have to be sheriff, it could obviously be local PD or whoever. If they never refer it in, prosecutors are going to have a hard time charging a case that they don't know anything about, they have no evidence on, and they may have non-cooperating law enforcement witnesses on. So that's really kind of the big role of how law enforcement can, in essence, undercut these anti-two-way laws. But let's make no mistake about it. Again, this really comes back to the prosecutors. So if you have a prosecutor in a county, let's say the head DA, it says, you know what? It's not my role as a prosecutor to call, a ball, a strike, or however it is you want to word it. At the end of the day, I'm just going to enforce the laws in the book. The prosecutor can work with potentially state patrol or other agencies to try to still root out and investigate individuals who may be in violation of these laws. So again, keep in mind, it's not the sheriff. Sheriff's important. They're big players in local politics and local law enforcement scene for sure. And I'm not trying to undercut their support or the good work that they do and through their support and through their actions. But I do want to make sure that people understand that at the end of the day, the way that this almost always works in different states is the fact that the prosecutors have the discretion on what to actually charge someone with, not to mention how to resolve those charges in court. Prison, jail, probation, we're going to dismiss it, whatever, not the sheriffs. So number 3, we just talked about how important prosecutors are in the context of sheriffs. And again, that's not me dumping on sheriffs. They're fantastic, they're super important. But we really need that second piece of the machine here, which is the prosecutors. So I understand, and I bet this will continue to be a trend in a case, and I hope it is, that different prosecutors will decline to charge laws that they believe are illegal and unconstitutional. They view it, just as I'm sure sheriffs do, as violating their oath of office. Great. So what happens if we've got both a sheriff or DA or maybe just a DA who are declining to file these charges? How can you still be at risk then, right? Unfortunately, there are some ways. Number 1 is you could have judges asking for what's called special prosecutors to come in from other counties or potentially the state DOJ or Attorney General's office to basically appoint special prosecutors to come in. So these are folks outside the DA's office just to handle these particular charges, okay? So that's one way this could happen is through judges or the Attorney General's office stepping in and saying, look, this is how we're going to make sure these charges still get charged, even if you have a non-cooperative DA. So yes, you can still be at risk even if you have that. So even if you actually are in a county where the prosecutors are sympathetic to you, again, subject to local law, subject to the temperature of the judiciary, that's the judges, as well as how active a role is your Attorney General going to be playing, there's still some liability there. Number 4, what are other ways that basically the levers of state government, wherever you particularly are, can be used against you? Well, that's where we get to local funding, things like this. I already covered the appointment of special prosecutors, but look, oftentimes, depending on the state you're living in, your tax dollars go to wherever the state capital is, and then they kind of get redistributed back around the state. Maybe you get hurt by those algorithms and formulas, namely you send more money to your state capital than you get back. Maybe you win under them. You get more money back than you sent in. Don't know. But at the end of the day, if you're in a minority government situation, in other words, the majority of the folks in your state government, the governor, the legislative branch, and so forth, are anti-Second Amendment such that they're passing these laws, don't think for a second that they're not going to use funding as a weapon to basically pull funding from wherever it is that they can in order to force local law enforcement to include potentially the prosecutor and the judiciary to start enforcing the laws that they passed 200 miles away in their state capital. Yes, it's not fair. I'm not asking you to like it. But again, this is something that can absolutely happen back. That doesn't mean that pro-2A folks and defenders doesn't have their own leverage. Obviously, folks, if you control a particular county, if you have, again, the judge, the prosecutor, the sheriff, and particularly local police chiefs and so forth as well, then you've pretty much run the deck. And odds are that if you've got that much control, then you also have the juries as well. So there's a lot of stack cards that you can put together. But I guess my bottom line in this whole thing is 2 things. Number 1, you're going to have to really make some careful decisions about how you're going to be complying, if you choose to comply, with all these AWBs that are coming out. Because look, number 2, even if you think that you're safe, you may not be safe. That's the simple fact of the matter. And again, I'm not defending that. I'm not cheering for that. but I am saying that this is the way it is, and you deserve someone to tell you the truth about that rather than just kind of a bunch of chest thumping and saying, don't worry, we're good. I hope you're good, but you may not be. Guys, if you've enjoyed this video, please click subscribe to the channel. I've actually been working a long time on a AWB video, which keeps getting pushed back because we're dealing with all this new news coming through. But working on what's the effect of assault weapons ban? What are the policy failures there? What has actually caused crime spikes in the past, such as the 80s and 90s? It's a great video I'm working on. Don't miss it. Click subscribe, not only to show your support for the Second Amendment, but also this channel. Of course, if you've not already done so, please consider clicking like and sharing the video around social media, again, to help us grow, spread the good word, and hopefully help to protect the Second Amendment. For the comments in this video, guys, I'm really curious, what are folks doing in your particular county, your particular jurisdiction? Is this something where you're seeing only the sheriff going out there and saying, yep, I'm the only one, and you've got a bunch of basically silent prosecutors, as an example? Is it the other way around? What about local police department? I realize the press is focusing on the sheriff, but are local police chiefs also getting in on the action here? Be my eyes and ears. What's going on out there? Thank you very much for sticking around this long. Both myself and the algorithm love you. We'll see you next time.